Well, welcome everyone. I've got Bastianela Gloria once again. We did a awesome podcast. I don't know how, maybe it was a year ago. So I thought that went very well. I'm very excited, Bastianela, to have you back on.
Thank you.
And Bastianela is with the Seekers Academy. I'm actually part of her program. I've been doing this with you, Bastianela, for a while, and I see some awesome, great benefits for myself. So that's kind of why I wanted to share you with the world, or at least with my world. And if you can share a little bit about, I know you've said this before on a previous podcast, but if you could share a little bit about you, your spiritual journey, I mean, your calling to do what you do in the area of self-realization, I think is definitely has to do with you, has to do with your past, has to do with the journey that you've been on. So if you could share with the audience a little bit about you.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't really like this part. I'd rather be asked questions, but what can I say? Where I have arrived right now with the four pillar compass, which is a complete system for self-realization emerging, it's been a long journey, right? 30 years almost to get me to this clarity about what does a self-realization path needs that is necessary and sufficient. So no fluff, no bypassing, but exactly what is necessary and sufficient so that we simplify all of that jungle of uh, teachings and mostly non-integrated teachings. Basically, my deepest desire was to get the struggle out of the self-realization journey for the seeker. That was my desire, and that's how this four pillar compass was born, and that's what is the core framework for all the programs that I'm offering right now. um, as you know, I've lived in an ashram for 23 years. I've dedicated my life to knowing myself because that was what made sense to me. At the age of 15, I had that revelation that if I don't know myself, I'm never gonna be happy. And it was so powerful and so clear that completely convinced me that that's what I have to do with my life. So that's why I moved into an ashram. And for 23 years, I stayed. I lived in an ashram and I participated in all the activities, all the sadhanas, how it's called. Every day you had to practice yoga and meditation. It was mandatory. You had to do the karma yoga, it's called, the common chores and the work that was needed. So I dedicated my life. I committed myself to this. It was like an obsession, almost, I can
Hmm.
say, but in a good way, that nothing else in life basically interested me. So I guess that's why I am where I am right now, in a position to be able to bring more clarity and to touch some deep subjects and struggles of the seeker on the journey, which is not so much talked about in the spiritual landscape. If you look around, I think that's my calling. That's what I'm here to do, and I enjoy doing that. I feel called to do that, to speak to the struggles, to so that the seekers can relate and identify what is going on in their experience, so they can understand their experience and what is the way out of the maze of confusion and seeking, which so many spiritual seekers find themselves in. That would be
Hmm.
what I had to say for.
Yeah, well, and obviously you do that very well.
Thank
So
you.
I think the thing that you spoke about a little bit about the four pillars, I was wondering if you could expand upon that a little bit for the audience as well.
Yes, absolutely. I just want to begin with saying how this emerged, because
Hmm.
it's something that has emerged from my own experience and in my own understanding. It's not something that I took from somewhere else. And the way it emerged was as I was looking back. Right now, I had this almost 30 years on the path, and I had the opportunity to look in hindsight and understand what was I missing, why was I struggling so much, what were my biggest pains, and how can I make that journey more clear, more simple, more structured for more significant efficiency, more results, if you want, palpable, significant, fulfilling results, because that was one of my biggest struggles. I did not have very significant, fulfilling results in all of those 20 some years when I was living in an ashram. And that was due to the lack of clarity. It was a lot of confusion. I was taking bits from here, bits from there, and I was trying to connect everything together to understand what is this journey actually about, because nobody gives you a manual. Nobody gives you, here it is, this is exactly the journey, these are the stages, this is how you go about them, these are the tools, this is the compass, and
You
so
mean
on.
you didn't get that manual?
No, I didn't. I don't know. I missed it. I
I don't
missed
think
it
any of us
completely.
did.
Yeah, so I'm not claiming that this is the only way to go
Mm,
about self realization, obviously, but it is what I had concluded. It's like the pearl of my experience, that because always I wanted to make efficient everything in my life. Basically, I was obsessed with efficiency without bypassing. So I always loved to go to the core of the problem, whatever it was. So this applied to the spiritual realization journey as well. So looking back, at my journey, I realized that the elements that I was missing and that I was craving, that I was suffering from the lack of, was first of all a map for the
mm,
journey, which is the first pillar of the four pillar compass. A map meaning the stages of awakening, the stages of the self realization journey, so that I can actually understand where I am at. Where
mm,
am I on this map and where am I going? Right? That was a big pain for me, not understanding that. And I remember I was seeking like a blind person into this maze and trying to make sense of where am I. And now, as I look back, I realize I wasn't even on the map. I wasn't even
mhm,
on the path. I was to towards going towards self-realization, but I was not on the path of
mm,
self-realization yet. I was still seeking for myself,
mm,
right? And everything changed when I realized that I am already what I seek. And that was a definite turning point in my experience. But it took me 23 years to get to that realization, which is so actually so obvious, right?
mhm,
I am already that which you seek. And every teaching speaks about that, but I never got it. That was the moment when I get it. I got it finally, and that changed everything for me. But to go back to the four pillar compass, so first I realized I needed a map, and the seeker needs a map to orientate
mhm,
themselves, right? If you don't know where you are, how do you know where you're going? How, and what do you use? What's the tool that you use? So, like every journey, for the journey, you need a map and you need a compass,
mhm.
basically, right?
Makes
And
sense.
so, yeah, so this is pillar number one, the map, understanding the stages of realization, but not just theoretically, but actually experientially. And this is something that I've introduced in the curriculum for the programs that I am offering. Number two, pillar number two is called the method,
Mhm,
which is a modality that is going, it's teaching you step by step how to go back to your own being, to the peace of your own being in any moment of experience, independent of circumstances,
Mhm.
which is something that so many seekers lack. They don't have that anchor, they don't have that point of reference that is very clear for them
Mhm.
that they can return to because of our mental and emotional conditioning, layers of conditioning. That is like a jungle. It's like a jungle of confusion, and you if you don't have a clear anchor, if you
Mhm.
don't know exactly, very precisely how to go back, to trace your way back to the peace of your own being, you're going to be swept away by life's events and
Yeah.
your own inner landscape, right? Thoughts, emotions, and all the turmoil, inner conflict, and all of the
Mhm.
suffering that we are going through as seekers. So, because of those layers of conditioning, because we still think ourselves to be a separate entity, a separate self, or an ego, how it's called, we do need a system. We do need something to guide us back to our own being.
Mhm.
And this is the method. And we use this method not only to find our way back, but also to ground our realization, to find our way back to ourselves, because I didn't
Yeah.
finish the sentence. And so that is pillar number two, the method. Pillar number one, map. Pillar number two, method, to trace your way back to yourself in any moment of experience. Pillar number three is called integration, which is about emotional healing. This is again such a big part of the spiritual landscape, the spiritual
Mhm.
journey. And this was one of my biggest pains as well. And I'm sure it is for so many seekers on the path, for the entirety of humanity, actually,
Yeah.
right? We all suffer emotional suffering, emotional pain. And so few of us know how to actually handle that in the best, simplest, most pure, graceful,
Mhm.
loving way possible. So, pillar number three is integration, which teaches how to handle emotional suffering, how to dissolve this deeply rooted pain
Mhm.
in a simplest way. So, and I feel that is so important because where I was, right, in the yoga school that I've been learning for 30 years, we weren't taught how to do that. We were
Mhm.
only relying on the yoga postures and the meditation and the pranayama, which is breath techniques. But that is just dancing around it. Just this is just general practice. For emotional healing to happen in the most effective way, you need to know exactly how to go to its root,
Mhm.
to the deepest root that is lodged in the body, and release, dissolve that. And that is how we gradually dissolve the layers of separation, the beliefs of separation. So that was pillar number three. And pillar number four, I called it mastery,
Mhm.
which basically, after you've went through the first three pillars, you learn how to connect all the dots and go about your spiritual realization journey in a way that is clear for you. You know what to do at every moment of your experience. You understand the journey, the milestones,
Mhm.
the map, you have the stages. And so I called it mastery because it's about mastering the way you navigate your self realization journey. So
Mhm.
basically, this is the story of the four pillar compass. And I think this name, four pillar compass, is so. It's so good because it's a compass for your self realization.
Yeah. Beautifully spoken. And I
Thank you.
can definitely relate to, I mean, I think the way you put that together is it serves me well, and I believe it serves everybody that's been in the program with me. And honestly, I talk to so many people today, more now more than ever. People are having things that are, I would say, catalysts within their life interruptions or things where they may have had a death of a loved one, maybe they're going through a health crisis, maybe they've had this career all their life and suddenly it disappears. And so something set them to seek, I guess. Something set them to become maybe a little bit more aware, but then where do they go? What do they do next? And
Yeah,
I would encourage that type of person to reach out to you. I would encourage them to go to your website to check out your program a little bit more because I believe what you've put together, like even for me in my own experience, and I'll be honest, I would like we talked about the method, and I would say I've had things that have happened in my life where I had experientially felt that sense of oneness. But when I learned your method, I learned a quick and effective way to go back to that state of beingness that I feel is that alone is of huge value.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's such a relief. It's such a comfort to know that you have something that you can use to always find the peace of your own being in the midst of day to day challenges, chaos, whatever it is. It's just, before having the method, we don't even realize how valuable such a method can be.
Mm.
But after we start to use it, we just feel that sense of relief and knowing, confidence, ease. Finally, I found. Finally, I know how to find myself, no
Yeah.
matter what happens. And that is of immense value, as you say. But still, it's not enough. I've tried
Hmm.
with just that. It's not enough because I still was left with the question, where am I on the journey?
Hmm.
So I needed the map. And I was still puzzled about how to heal emotional suffering. I did not know how to do that with clarity because
Yeah.
that has its own challenges. And you can actually handle it directly. You don't have to just be present and that's it, right?
Yep.
Because that dissolving doesn't happen so quickly. You can do that, but it's just going to take longer. It's fine. I mean, if
Mm.
you're not a nerd like I
Yeah.
am for self-realization and you're not really wanting a high effectiveness in your
Hmm.
self-realization journey, then the method pillar 2 is enough. It's really enough. It's
Yeah.
all we need.
Bastianella, I have a question, and I think I might have asked this before. And at pillar three, the emotional healing, is that what? So
Yes.
you hear so many people talk about that word shadow work. Is that
Yes.
basically the same thing?
Yeah, it's the same. Yeah, they're referring to the same thing, but I just don't like the word shadow. It's not really shadow work.
Sure.
They're just parts of ourselves that are still in separation. They hold separation beliefs and they are suffering from one thing or another. And here we can mention, right, shame, guilt, betrayal, humiliation, all sorts of emotional suffering, that injustice that we hold that are subconscious or unconscious. And when you start to work with this method, with pillar number 2, they start to come up to the surface, to be acknowledged, to be seen, and to
Hmm.
be integrated. So, this is kind of the process of self realization because many people think that subconsciously there's a belief that spiritual awakening or self realization is a moment. So we are striving towards a moment where, poof, the enlightenment will happen and that everything is solved. But that is not so. I mean, there are very rare people on this planet who had such moments
Yeah.
where everything truly changed. For the rest of us, we need to work. That is when the first moment when we recognize our true nature is when the journey actually begins. That is the journey of self realization. That is where it begins. Until then, it was the journey to.
Oh,
self-realization.
okay. That poof. I get the image of what is it, Superman going into a phone booth and coming out with his cape.
Right.
No, you're right. Not everybody has that. Very few people, nobody I know. So it is I think understanding that, the program you put together to be able to be engaged with that. And I'm so grateful that I met you, number one, because
Thank you.
I have seen a just in the essence of because I feel my calling, I'm here to serve. So, and I would relate my path or the pathless path or whatever, I would relate the fact that I went from a point of perspective, being conditioned by the world, of feeling that I needed to have certain things to qualify me being whole or me being happy, right? And then it shifted to a point where I realized, no, that's really not it. And the more that I think I became self-aware, I realized that my desires, if anything, I would say have shifted more into excitement or more into how I can serve. And
Yeah.
I have a better identity of knowing that than seeing that. It's like been in front of me all along. I just for some reason felt a sense of lack in the beginning part of my life and a desperate need to fit in, to be somehow accepted by who? Society, my parents, whatever,
We don't
myself.
know. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
so deeply rooted that we don't even realize it's there.
yeah, yeah. So the clarity that I've gotten, which I feel is essentially you really help people with clarity. And
Thank
I
you.
feel,
I mean, that's
yeah,
my favorite word, clarity.
yeah,
Because clarity relieves us of suffering,
true.
relieves of confusion, and clarity helps depth, brings about depth, right?
Yeah,
The more clear
absolutely.
you become, the deeper you can see and understand, and that is what the process is actually. And that's how you also and myself as well and everybody finds their calling by
Yeah.
becoming more and more clear about themselves and more free to express themselves. And that is why seeking self-realization will never cease. It will never cease. It's a green, ongoing process which is happening knowingly or unknowingly because everybody's seeking self-realization, whether they know it or not. That's what they
Mm,
seek. So what well, an easier or simpler way to say it that everything is seeking, everybody's seeking fulfillment. That sense of I'm complete, right?
mm,
I am fulfilled. I no longer need to complete myself with something else or someone else. I
mm,
am complete within myself. And that sense of completeness can only come from knowing your true nature. It cannot come from anywhere else. And you mentioned that you enjoyed my last video. I don't know
yes.
if you want to get into that now or later.
Well, yeah, I wanted to ask you, that was the one, why most spiritual paths don't reach the heart of self-realization. And I know you must have just put that out. I have a tendency to come across your videos right after you put them out. I think that was like a day or two ago, right? I don't remember
Yeah,
exactly, but I
yeah,
watched that and I
Tuesday.
felt, yeah, I felt that what you shared in that was really important for a lot of people to hear. So I'm going to put a link to that
Thank
down
you.
below this also, as well as to your website. But can you share a little bit more about that? Why spiritual paths don't
Yeah.
reach the heart of self-realization?
Yeah. So the reason why I felt the call to make such a video is because, well, for so many years I look around and I talk to people, right? To seekers. And I see so many of them are lost in the sea of spiritual information or so-called spiritual information. So many teachings, so many possibilities, so many teachers, so many courses, so many philosophies. It's really difficult to pinpoint which one is that which will take you to your essence, which will take you where you actually want to go.
Hmm.
So, the reason why most paths don't lead you to the heart of self realization is because, first of all, they don't intend to,
Hmm.
for one. Their aim is just to better your mind or your behavior or make you feel good, and that doesn't actually last. And that is why most people feel unfulfilled or frustrated when they take such courses, because nothing can ever fulfill you unless you know yourself. And I will say that if you take a course and they don't teach you from the first class how to reach the peace of your own being, how to know, how to see, how to recognize your true being from the first class, don't take it. It's not why, I mean, it's not necessary to learn anything else if self realization is your goal.
Very well put.
Then,
Yeah.
then knowing your true self. And if they don't teach you from the first class, then it's not it, because there's no need to teach anything else. There is a direct way. You don't need preparation. You already are being that which you seek.
Hmm.
So if you, for those of you watching who still don't know where to go or what to course to take one that tells you that they will show you exactly how to know your true nature from the first class, because
Hmm.
that's the only thing that is needed for practice. There's no other practice that is truly necessary. I thought there was all those 23 years, right? I did yoga,
Yeah.
meditation, breathing techniques, but they're not necessary because you already are that which you seek. That's
Hmm.
why it's not necessary. You already are. All you need is to see that.
Hmm.
And so if I'm saying that, that means that the biggest problem for most seeker is that they don't know where to look
Hmm.
in order to see, to recognize their true nature, to see, oh, I am already that which I seek, to see themselves as the presence of awareness. So that is why most paths don't lead to the heart of self realization. They are mostly dancing around it. They don't actually give a very clear, precise, crystal clear, precise way to trace your way back to your own being.
Hmm.
And know that, and I'm talking to your viewers right now, know that what you seek is always yourself.
Hmm.
There's whatever you think you need that you will find in the next course, in the next teaching, on the next corner, that is going to finally give you that which you crave, to finally give you that deep peacefulness or freedom or confidence or self worth, whatever it is that you seek, nothing can give you that other than the only thing that can give you that is knowing yourself, because yourself is complete. It doesn't know lack, it doesn't know suffering, it doesn't know agitation, it doesn't know worry, it doesn't know any kind of struggle because it doesn't know lack, it doesn't know fear.
Hmm.
So I think this is so important for us as seekers to know, because I remember way back when I was on my path, I was not aware that what I am actually seeking was for myself. I
Hmm.
got lost in the practices, right? And I was in continuous seeking mode, not even realizing that when I am in a seeking quest, on a seeking quest, that means that I am going further away from myself, right? I mean, how
Hmm.
can I travel to myself? I already am that. I already am myself. So I think this is so common. Most seekers begin with that moment of inspiration or awakening or some revelation, whatever it is, a light bulb moment,
Mhm.
and then they lose themselves in the seeking, in the practices, in the techniques, in the next teaching, the next retreat, the next workshop, the next webinar, never quite arriving. Always feeling
Yeah.
that what they seek is out of reach. And the reason why, it's because that course, webinar, workshop, whatever, it doesn't show you yourself.
Ah, I would say one thing is the difference I've noticed is when we're seeking just coursework or maybe even reading a good book on any subject matter, whether it's spiritual or not, we tend to intellectualize it.
Yes. Yes.
When we're in a state of being, we tend to embody it. There's like a higher
Definitely.
form of intelligence received that is embodied experientially through the coursework. So that's what you just shared to me makes total sense that if you initially start a program such as your program, where in the very beginning part of it, you teach how to be that in a state of full awareness of being, then
Yes.
there's a whole different element of I think understanding on a different in a different way and a different level.
Yes, because that's actually the beginning. It's not the end of the journey. We start directly with the end goal, basically.
Yes.
And that is how it's supposed to be, because you already are that which you are seeking. That's why.
Yeah.
That is the beginning point. And the process then is about integrating that realization of yourself into your day-to-day life, aligning your body, mind to that felt understanding of yourself. That is where most seekers don't know how to do, because there's a science to it. There's a methodology to it, that it needs to be systematic. Why? Because of the layers of conditioning, mental and emotional conditioning. That's why. Otherwise, you already are that which you seek. So your seeking ends when you have found yourself. And then you have found yourself, you know who you are, and then you integrate that knowing into your day to day life by aligning your body mind with that. That means that your thoughts, your emotions, your behavior, your actions are going to change to align to this new understanding, which
Mhm.
whose nature is peace, joy, love,
Yeah.
compassion, creativity, integrity. So all of your being is going to be aligned with that new felt understanding. But in order for that to happen as an unfolding continuous process, you need to know how to apply, how
Hmm.
to anchor this realization of yourself in your day to day life. And I feel most seekers are lost here at this chapter, in this area. They don't know how to anchor their self realization. And they're desperately looking for some modality. That's
Hmm.
why one of the videos that I made was the truth about self realization. You need a system, because you truly do.
Hmm.
Even though you already are that which you seek, you do need a system, because you still believe yourself to be something different, a
Yeah.
separate entity.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And I would also share not only just the part about having a deeper sense of clarity of yourself, of your service or why you're here, like how you can serve, but also being kind of at ease with all things, just kind of knowing that it's all working out. And in my own life, I've seen I guess the word would be synchronicity. I've seen a number of things that have just shown up absolutely at the perfect time, at the perfect moment, the perfect opportunity that maybe was always there, but because I think I've shifted somewhat through a bit bigger sense of clarity, knowing that's showing up, I'm recognizing and I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for life, actually. That's the bigger thing, the life itself. So
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know if you can expand upon that. But that's to me, that's the thing that I have felt, obviously, going through your program, going through this deeper understanding of myself and the clarity that I've gotten. I just see that things are just always working out. There's always that essence of flow. And it's both exciting and it's also a deep sense of gratitude for life, for
Yeah,
everything.
absolutely. Well, yeah, when you know yourself and you start to anchor that knowing, so you become more and more deeply rooted into the knowing of your true nature, which is infinite, eternal awareness, then you become more and more free and open. The resistance drops, and your thoughts and emotions become more clear because you're more clear about who you are. Everything else clarifies, everything else becomes cleaner, so to speak, less distorted, less and less distorted. So then you align with the universal harmony because ultimately there's only one system, one consciousness.
Mm,
There's no more little consciousnesses or many little consciousnesses. There's one consciousness, so it's one system. Everything works as a whole. So when you know who you are, you align with the universal truth. And then it's bound to bring about synchronicities because you're in harmony with the whole, which is always here to support you. It's always here to surprise you, to give you joy and everything that you need. So it's always supportive. The only reason why sometimes it doesn't feel like that is just because of the layers of contraction,
mhm,
beliefs of separation that we are still holding, the conditioning. So that's why self realization is so incredibly liberating because those layers start to dissolve the more you know who you are and you know how to work with your emotional suffering, the more you liberate yourself. The more
mm.
free you feel, the more grateful you feel, the more one you feel with all that is. So everything falls into place and it's a continuous discovery in the same time, right? I'm sure you can also notice that in your own experience. It's a continuous thrill of discovering this newness, this freshness of your own being is always fresh, right? It
Yeah.
no longer operates on autopilot. It's not looping endlessly the same thought patterns and behaviors. It's just always fresh and it's so exhilarating to live like
Yes.
that.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. Yeah, every moment is. Yeah.
Exactly. And then you feel gratitude naturally. It's not something
Yeah.
you do as a practice necessarily. It just is filling your heart. It's filling up your heart. And if you look at it, you actually realize that it's not that you feel grateful, you are gratitude itself,
Your gratitude itself. Beautifully
right?
spoken. Yes.
Because you're no longer
Yeah.
separate from that feeling. You're just it's all complete. It's all
Mm.
perfect.
Wow. Well, Bastianello, this has been wonderful. How do people find out more about you, your program? What do they do next?
Yeah, well, they can go to my website or they can reach out through email if that's easier.
Mhm.
My website is bastianelagloria.com. It maybe you can
I'll
leave the
put the
link.
link. Yeah.
Yeah. And then if you go to programs and events, maybe it's better to put that link. It's more specific. You can find out the offerings. We have the Seeker's Master, which is a 9-month deep dive. That is surely very deep, where we offer the curriculum, which are pre-recorded videos for short, to the point
Mm.
curriculum modules that also contain guided meditations for anchoring, for grounding the experience. We have live calls, group calls, and we also have one-on-one sessions in this big 9-month deep dive. And I
Nice.
want to point here this the importance of being in a group of like-minded people, like-hearted people who are going in the same direction. I'm sure you can also say the same about our group, about our work together, that the
Yep,
group is so incredibly helpful because we're sharing, because we're learning from each other, we're supporting each other, we're there for each other. It's just so multiplied, I would say.
absolutely.
Everything
Yeah.
is multiplied.
Yeah, because sometimes I find, well, first I would share, just so the audience knows, that you have an international attraction about you. So you're from Romania. I've met people from all over the world, a lot from the US, but also other countries.
Yeah,
And I like that. Number one, I get a bigger family out of the experience. But just
yeah,
what you were just sharing right then was like when you're in a group, much like going to a gym versus buying weights and being at home. You buy the weights and you don't do it. You go to the
hmm,
gym, everybody's got this intention and energy is moving in this direction called working out.
yeah,
And the same thing around the group that you've brought together and how so I find that just being in that, I feel connection. I feel the fact that it's helping, obviously, for myself, I'm sure for others. And then sometimes somebody asks the question that maybe I didn't ask, but the question I found between the question and the answer, I found something that was enriching my soul in a way because it was really deeper sense of clarity. So I would say the difference between maybe one-on-one and the group setting I really love because somebody in that group may ask that one question, and then
yeah.
between your sharing and everything else, I got to a higher sense of understanding of something.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's actually the point. That's why I started to work with groups because I was just working one-on-one previously. But also I introduced not just the group calls, I introduced one-on-one sessions as well in this Seeker's Mastery, our deep dive, the pinnacle of transformation in the academy, because I really want to take a very close look at the personal experience of the participants. That's why the spaces are always limited. It's only 12 spots for each such program because I want to work closely with people. I really want to give my all to everybody's experience and journey to support them to the best of my abilities. So I truly believe that I gave everything that can be put in such a container, basically everything. It's pre recorded videos, group calls, one on one calls, and the group portal, the WhatsApp group where everybody can connect with each other and they can have daily calls like you're having with the group for daily meditation. So it's just absolutely everything that you need basically to be supported, to feel supported, to be able to open up, to really get to deeper levels of clarity about yourself, about your journey, and really get to that peace that you seek. So this is Seeker's Mastery. I also created the short version of the 9 month deep dive, which are an autumn and a spring and autumn online retreats, only 12 weeks, where they receive the same core course, pre recorded videos. And then we're having the live calls, we're having the one on one sessions and the group portal, but it's just a shorter period of time where everything is concentrated. It's more concentrated. It's not such a big deep dive as the 9 months, obviously. And then there's one course, which is a self learning course that I entitled Seeker's Compass, which is basically all the pre recorded videos that all of the other courses receive, but that's it. So it's self learning, you get it, you learn it at your own pace, and then you integrate it as you see fit, or you can then come later to the monthly webinars that I am going to do
Mhm.
for every graduate in order to ground their realization, to ground their understanding, so that support them further basically after they have graduated from any of the programs.
Nice. Beautiful. And all this is on your website.
It's all on the website. If you
Oh,
go to the programs and events page, it's all explained there, and then you can go to that program which interests you.
beautiful. Well, any final last words to the audience?
I just want to say that you are never going to be deeply, fully fulfilled if you don't know who you are. So if you're
Mm.
still having doubts about that or still feeling pulled in different directions, but what you actually want is deep peace, clarity, to just feel that joy of being, joy of living, self realization is the answer. Knowing thyself and grounding that knowing in your day to day life.
Awesome. Bastianela Gloria, thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you so much, Ron. Thank you. I
Yes.
really appreciate you doing this. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
All right.
Bye
Thank
now.
you. Bye.